That mattered to me. It mattered to me not because for me, it mattered to me for that family. And there is a difference between having a profession and being a professional. Having a profession is what you do. Being a professional is the culmination of everything that you've done at that moment, at that time for a specific purpose. And that's what I had to bring in with that, because that was what was at stake with this.
So you have these 4 cards in front
yep.
of you. We've done the P, which is staying focused on your purpose when you go into the conversation to fend off the emotion, which might distort you and take you off. And I'm so guilty of that.
Everybody is.
So guilty of that, especially with conversations with my partner where there's emotion involved and there's certain areas where, blame might be prevalent. So the L that you have there.
So the L is listen. This becomes the thing that people are worst at because it's a lot to do. Think about right now. Think about my conversation with you at this moment. I'm speaking. So internally, my internal vocabulary and the conversation that I'm having in my head is running about 800 to 1,000 words a minute. I'm speaking to you in about 120 to 150 words a minute. There's a lot that's being edited. There's a lot of things that I think that I'm saying or I want to say. I'm trying to engage with you. There's also something called theory of mind, which is me watching you and trying to understand, is what I'm saying on point with what Stephen wants to hear or wants to hear for his audience? Do I need to change anything? Is this landing on him? And then if your nonverbals change and your verbals change, then I have to readjust maybe what I'm editing, and my theory of mind will readjust too, because I'm like, ooh, I just lost him here. I have to readjust. Simultaneously, you are listening to me, and you're listening to the 120 to 150 words I'm giving you, but your brain can process this at like 400 to 600 words per minute. So you have too much cognitive bandwidth. You have the ability to listen to me and then do multiple other things, which is oftentimes why people will drift out, or you'll start thinking of something else, or you'll think of your notepad because you got it figured out. And this is when it becomes really easy to be convinced and not curious because you're like, I kind of know where this is going. And so you check out. So you actually have to do something called cognitive inhibition. You have to kind of narrow that bandwidth to stay fully engaged with me. That's why when you hear people say like active listening, it's hard. It's hard to do because you have to be attentive to the other person. You have to listen. You have to look. You have to pick up their verbal and their nonverbal behavior. And then you have to do something with that. Stephen Covey says most people don't listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. And if you are simply just waiting for your turn to talk, then you and I are not connecting.
Controlling conversation comes from listening, not talking. So if I'm trying to get some information out of someone, I should have a bias towards just letting them speak at me.
You should. You hear about this, like always let the other person talk more. That's great, but if both people are doing that, then the conversation is not progressing. The conversation is an extension of what you and I are speaking with. And when we've gone from listening in terms of what that looks like, the next thing you have to do, which gets into this, is the A, which is ask, right? So the A being this: if you are paying attention to me and you're picking up on things that I'm saying, the changes in my body language, and there's something you don't understand, you need to ask. This is where you're going to deepen the conversation. This is where you show somebody that you're active listening, you're curious, and you're open, and you're trying to understand them. If you look at empathy research, we typically think that we can understand our significant other or different people at a much higher level than we actually do. For a stranger, it's called empathy accuracy. For a stranger, your ability to understand their headspace is like 20%.